Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of this podcast series. The name of the podcast is What Does Coffee Mean to You? And long story short, what I do is I invite creative people, entrepreneurs, doers, thinkers, whatever, that are outside of the coffee industry with the attempt or the aim to gather inspiration to allow us working here in the coffee industry or elsewhere. It doesn't really matter if you're in coffee or not. To get inspired to learn, to be able to realize their own dreams, right? So we're inviting some really interesting people here. The very first episode started with one of the most famous fashion designers in the world. Second episode, one of the most famous chefs in the world. And the third episode here is very appropriate given that we're based in Copenhagen. We're bringing in a really interesting designer, Thomas Lykke. He's been designing everything from Noma restaurants to furnitures to penthouses. He's an interior designer. He's been designing furnitures. He's been kind of a beacon of light and inspiration for the interior design world in Copenhagen for such a long time. And I remember the first time we actually met. It was an interesting moment because I was still working in the very first April store here in Copenhagen. We just opened, we filled the store with a bunch of finial furniture, and this guy, Thomas, which I back then don't know, he's just standing outside on the street. There's no one in the store because it's brand new. He's just kind of looking in, and you can see that he's like really curious, and he stands there for like 5-10 minutes, and eventually, you go, why don't you come in, guy? And he comes in, and it turns out he's a huge finial fan. And then I learned about all his connections to Japan. I learned about the different products he has. And over the years, we've been kind of following each other's path and work. So it's been so interesting to be able to bring him in here home to me to just have an open conversation. And you guys are lucky because we recorded it. Now, I should say, the concept of this podcast series, as I've been mentioning a few times now already, is a 60-minute long conversation. I'm getting better at that. Bear with me. Secondly, we should start every episode with the question, what does coffee mean to you? And for some reason in this episode, I'm so excited that I actually forget to ask him. However, it is a very good episode, and Thomas is kind of smart enough and kind enough to kind of remind me in the very end of the episode that I did forget it. So he answers a little bit as well, right? But really interesting insight in not just in general design and the kind of world of interior, but also building a career. Thomas has a very interesting journey that we kind of get to get a glimpse of, which is so interesting here in this episode. So I'm really excited to have had the opportunity to talk to him, and I'm sure that you guys will enjoy this conversation just as much as I did. So here it is, episode number 3, together with Thomas Lykke from OEO Studios. Enjoy, everyone. So we're here with episode 3 of this podcast series. Actually, the time is kind of flying. And this time I'm with Thomas, which is kind of interesting, right? We met a long time ago. We're going to go into that as well. But before, maybe you want to just give them a little bit of a quick introduction on who you are and what you're up to.
Yeah, my name is Thomas Lykke, and I'm originally educated or have a background as a fashion designer. And then I took an editorial route. I was working with interiors in London for Wallpaper magazine back in the days. And then that was all before I started up OEO, which is a design and architecture firm.
Yeah, and that was what year did you start that? 2000?
We had like our 20th year anniversary. So it was back in 2003. So it's a lot of water in the river since.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. And that was in I'm assuming like Denmark has always been on the map when it comes to interior design, furniture design, and so on, right?
Yes, but it's been up and down.
Yeah.
And of course we have a big legacy from the past. And then we have had actually some years where it was more in the shadow, living off the masters until around year 2000, 2005, 10, where it was like a new movement which really has also placed Denmark on the map again for a design nation. So it's been interesting.
Okay, and what is let's go back a little bit before we go into how we met. But so obviously, like 3 very creative practices that you've been up to, like starting in the fashion world, going into editorial. Yeah. So I'm assuming if we're kind of going back to even before that, you were always quite creative growing up?
Yeah, always been very curious. So it's kind of like it was a coincidence that it became fashion. I mean, I easily fall in love with things. So I could also have gone down the coffee route, I think, or food, or everything creation. I guess what I like is creating and also challenging, looking at things with a new perspective. What can be done differently? How can you, work with something traditional, but how can you push the boundaries and create some new experiences? So I'm obsessed with creating experiences, actually. That's really what drives me. And I'm also obsessed with the authenticity behind things. So that is really something that's really deeply rooted in everything we do. It's about finding the nerve and why, it's the big why.
Yeah, the big why. It's an interesting one, and I think that's something for in my very kind of short interior design journey, which is then be April more or less, right? That's all I've done. That's something that I think about a lot as well. But it's also part of why I wanted you here as well, because I think it's creating a space. It's such a difficult thing, and I mean the people that followed OEO and what you've been doing in the past, that you're behind a lot of the restaurants in Copenhagen. A few of them that I've been to as well, and obviously a few in Japan, right? There's always been this link between Japan and Denmark in terms of what you guys do.
Big link, yes, for sure.
What has been like the main, let's say, main challenge or kind of incentive in, let's say, going into the restaurant world and working with those?
You said challenge?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really like a challenge. I mean, of course, it's. I really, really enjoy working with chefs. To be honest, I think I found so much inspiration working with But again, it's more like the creation is again their view on ingredients and the nerdiness and the passion. That's really what gives me a lot of energy. So to me, about restaurants is again back to the experience about transforming what they serve on the dish into an experience, like a complete experience, and really trying to grasp the essence of that, to give the guest like 360 experience. That's really what drives me. Also, I really think it's important to create something that has a long value, so it's not just like following trends and stuff like that. So I'm really not a trend kind of guy. I like setting trends. That's a different thing.
Yeah, okay, sure. Well, what is like the most to say successful or like / non-successful trend that you guys been setting, or that you maybe have seen in Denmark over the last few years?
Well, I mean, actually, there's quite a few, but it's also on not like from a small scale thing. It's like I remember back in the days, that was actually when I was still at Wallpaper, and with one of my Icelandic friends, we actually established I actually had the .com for something called Branded Spaces.
Okay.
And I even had with him an exhibition at the Danish Design Center when it was just around the corner from here.
Yeah.
Which was called Branded Spaces. And to me, it was like crystal clear. What is a branded space? It's like when you take somebody's DNA and the brand and you transform that into a coherent 360 experience and fold it out. But back then, I mean, nobody understood what we are talking about. And now it became like a thing, like a buzzword. I guess you can call that like, or you can also say that we are, sometimes we are also good with a crystal ball, but sometimes a little too early. I think we have experienced that quite a lot in our
that you feel
career.
Like you're a bit ahead of the, let's say, ahead of the curve. Like
sometimes it can be, it's not always the ones that find out first that it gets the reward, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a little bit like that.
Yeah, sure. No, almost never, I would say. Like it's always it's never the easiest to be the first, right? Like
No.
usually you pave the way for maybe, a few very in tune people in that industry.
Exactly.
But then there's something that one of those people are picking it up and making it mainstream or making people see it publicly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which is kind of a challenge. But what do we, so maybe a little bit more business focused, but why, so you go from wallpaper, you want to do design then, or you want to do interior design?
No, actually, when Tyler, he actually headhunted me back in the days, and I was still in fashion at that point.
Okay.
And point of time. And in my head, I was still gonna be. It was still like gonna be the next Yohji Yamamoto or Alexander McQueen. Or that was still my drive and vision. But I also struggled with the industry. I struggled with the. And again, that could also be like a little bit ahead of time because I was even then focused on sustainability, which was like nobody talked about sustainability, not in fashion at all. I mean, really like none. So I had doubts about the industry of fashion, how things was made. And so I guess I was kind of open to new avenues. And then I had an opportunity working with Wallpaper and Tyler and became friends with Tyler, and he offered me a job, but that was within interiors, and I was really hesitant. And I said, now, if you offer me a job with fashion, I mean, offer me fashion editor or whatever, I would say yes straight away. And he was like, no, that's not the job I can offer you. I really want you to come and work with interiors. And I was like, but why? And he said, because I believe you have the right eye. And I was like, wow, that was actually a good answer.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it is about the eye that see, and not so much about what you do. It's about how do you approach things, and do you have the right ideas, and then it doesn't really matter so much if it's fashion, interiors, architecture. So also how we approach architecture and interiors is the same. I mean, I would approach it the same way. Again, which always comes back to the experience and the viewer or the consumer, or it's always about people.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, but what do you? So you're at Wallpaper, and then at some point in your life / career, you decide that okay, but I want to start my own company. Is it or is it the drive? I'm curious because for me, when I started April, it was kind of a necessity. Like there were things I wanted to do, and other people running the companies I worked in did not allow me to do that. So I needed to create a situation where I could just do my thing.
Yeah.
Some people start companies just because they really like the idea of starting a company, and then they figure out what they want to do. How was that kind of process for you? Was it important for you to have a company?
It was for sure. Yes. Also, I knew when I was because at that point in time when having a wallpaper business card, that basically opened up doors. I mean, in all over the world, it was almost like an ambassador. You could like go anywhere, meet everybody. I mean, there was always a door open. So I also knew that from the minute I would stop working at wallpaper, there would be a lot of doors closing automatically because I would not be Thomas from Wallpaper anymore. I would just be Thomas who.
Yeah.
And it was actually like that. I mean, especially in Copenhagen, because Copenhagen is a very, very small. Everybody wanted to play before, and when I was not Thomas from Wallpaper anymore, I was not that interesting. So so that was a little hard, but I also knew that I wanted to go back to Copenhagen and Denmark, and that I wanted to create my own things. So I got a taste for, and had a lot of ideas. I had my friend Thorbjørn from Iceland, who also moved to Denmark, and we had a lot of ideas together. So that kind of kickstarted that. And then OEO was created like in 2003.
Is that a long process? Was that a difficult process to kind of iron out what you wanted to do, or did that all come very naturally?
It came natural, also from my time at Wallpaper, seeing what I believe the world needed. So we also, I mean, OEO started ever so slightly with a different approach to what we do today. So you can also say what we do has evolved, and so first we had more like a little bit like a management role, so like creative talent management, but that was also because when I was at wallpaper and looking back at my country with different foreign eyes, you can say, and seeing the young generation, how they struggled and, standing on the shoulders of giants, but really having a hard time getting out and about. So I thought, how can I help the young talent mass and getting out there? But after some years, it was not so funny, to be honest. It was like I felt like I was holding my own ideas back to support others. And it was not always like a journey of joy, so to speak. Yeah. So I wanted to go back to more like the creation part. So I did that with my partner, Emery, business partner. And then we were working more in the strategic field of design, like more like shaping the bigger concepts. So business, creativity go hand in hand, and more like creative strategies, and which was fun. And then back in 2011, I think we went full circle on design and interiors and architecture, and
actually started to like produce pieces.
Exactly. So it took a little time but I think that was really, really some important years, because we learned a lot of how the industry works.
Yeah.
And also how to work with the companies, what actually creates value for them, but also for consumers, and thinking like more like a coherent picture of design and architecture. And so that was great. So.
Yeah. And what are the, like, let's say, if we look at some more, let's say, current products that you've been up and running now? We talked a little bit before, you're running the Noma coffee shop / store design and things like that.
Yeah, we've done a lot for Noma over the years, right? So
Inua also, right?
Yeah, we did in Inua, which was
that
was a great thing. Yeah, with Thomas Lykke from Noma, and that was the first restaurant we did in Tokyo.
Yep.
And that was really something.
That was a beautiful space. The whole I think experience was quite exceptional.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Definitely. But now, so you're doing the Noma coffee thing. You're doing product. I mean, we just looked at a mirror that you guys designed here as well, right?
Yeah,
so there's obviously a lot of small products as well.
Yeah,
it's a good mirror, no?
Yeah.
But let's say, what is maybe a good question is like, how do you select the products you do? Like, is that a process? Because I'm assuming I know a little bit about product development. You obviously know a lot more, but
I think it
takes a bit of time, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just, you need to plan a little bit and need to decide this is what I want to do and not do.
Yeah. No, I think most of if it's products, they are born out of a project. Like a bigger project. So we just recently did a collection of furniture for Time and Style, a Japanese maker, which is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting and greatest companies in the world. I mean, they are really top notch, and they always been like really high on my on the list, wish list, you can also say. And we know that Yoshida-san, the owner, for quite some years now, but really also waiting for the right moment to reach out and say, should we do something together? So that was actually when we did Noma Kyoto for the second time.
Oh, okay.
And we reached out and asked if we should do a full-on furniture collection together.
Yeah.
But I think that collection is very special, because I think it's, again, as I said, it's always about finding the reason, the purpose, and there's so many chairs out there. The world is drowning in chairs, and great chairs as well. So why do you do yet another chair, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Or yet another table? But of course, it's always about the context it sits and how it's born out from. And I think also it's about challenging the known. And I think even though it doesn't look like a revolution, it's actually the chair, especially the chair, is quite revolutionary, even though if you looked at it now, you think, oh wow, that's a beautiful chair, but you would not think of it as a revolution. So it's one of these subtle revolutions where we work with material, that has always been worked with in a certain way, but never challenged. So in this case, it's tatami. But tatami is for floor, something you sit on, you walk on it, but you never. It's never three-dimensional.
You actually don't sculpture it into.
You never sculpture it. It's always just a flat. So we used it as a seat. So it's rounded, it's curved, it's soft. And when I asked our friend Yokoyama Tatami from Ohara, just outside of Kyoto, and he's one of the greatest tatami makers in the world. I mean, of course, in the world, is from Japan.
Sure. Yeah.
And I asked him, so can we do this? And he was like, no. And I was like, why? Because if you can steam bend wood, we must be able to bend grass. I mean, it's literally the same. It's like, even though it's different, we must. And then took 1 week, and by UPS, I had like a perfect seat. So again, it was just like about asking the right question in the right way with respect, and just like pushing ever so slightly. And then, we created actually something really, really beautiful, never seen before to the world, and actually something that is so relevant for us foreigners abroad, because we don't have a tatami room. Yeah. Even though we like it.
I think we all want it.
We all want it, but we don't get it.
Yeah, sure.
But you can get a beautiful chair. So I think it's these kind of things where you challenge, like you also challenge the making coffee and the perfection of coffee, the taste, how it feels in the mouth, and all these things. It's the same. It's just like, can we push it a bit, or can we do it ever so slightly different? And I think that's what's fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's fun, and it's important, and it's relevant, and it's something that I think more people should do more of, right? I think I really resonate with this idea, to be able to create a really good chair, you need to understand that the world doesn't need another chair. Right?
Totally, yeah.
But the world hasn't necessarily, you probably designed a few chairs in your life, but in general,
I love chairs.
But it's this thing, no, they don't need a random chair, but if you can put yourself into that chair and put a perspective on it that hasn't been brought to the table yet, like a bit of your identity, then yes, probably they do need it, right? Because that chair has not been made before, right? I think the same with coffee shops, right? It's,
totally. It's
or restaurants. You can capture that into everything, right?
Yeah, for sure. So,
but there's a level of integrity that needs to go in, I think, to any project, regardless of what that is, right? But I think that's how you justify the existence of that project, or motivate why it should be done. Then you need, you need to be a bit. You need to be willing to put yourself out there and say, no, but I can bring something to this table that people have not been done with doing before, right? And I think that's fun.
I noticed that from your Instagram that you recently with my friend Takayaki, Takahiro Yagi from Kaikado.
Yeah.
So we did Kaikado, right?
You did
the cafe, and So
that's amazing.
So we actually worked quite a lot in the coffee field.
Yeah, sure.
But it didn't start like that with the Yagi family. It had, but it has a similar feel to it. So Kaikado, which is for people who don't know, they're doing tea canisters. And that's what they've been doing when we started. When we did the cafe, it was 140 years. So it's been around for 10 years. So they just had the 150 years anniversary and 10 years of the cafe. But we started working with them back in 2012, 2011-ish, I think. Okay. And they were only doing tea canisters. They've been doing that since they started. Yeah, sure. And only did that, one product in different sizes, different materials. So we became very close to the family, and also we were the first to do different products. And it actually started up as it started up as more like a collaborative project with other Japanese brands, and then it was called Japan Handmade, and Kaikado was one of them. And we did a collection with them, which is called the Objects Collection. So it was basically, again, because there was tea canisters, obviously for tea, but again, it was like for more a Western market. How can you tap into the world of Kaikado and explaining the story? You do that via the products.
Yeah, sure.
So there was like water pitchers, teapot, milk jugs, and trays, and da 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 da.
Okay.
Ended up at the permanent collection of the Louvre and also V&A in London and elsewhere. So it became really successful, and it was interesting because as probably most know, Japan can be very conservative, especially from Kyoto. They're very protective of their history and their craftsmanship, but somehow this showed also Taka, who's the next generation, that you can actually do things differently and with respect for the past, and still, go both. You're still protecting the past, and then you're creating for the future. So it's like understand the past to create for the future in a way. And then he rang me and said, Thomas, found this building with my father. It's an old tram repair workshop, which is just 200 meters down from the Kaikado workshop. Yeah. And it has been empty for like 30 years or something. And we are thinking about buying it. And I was like, why? We want to make a cafe, and we want you to do it. And it's like, okay. So we went to, Maria and I went to see it in Kyoto, and it was great. I was like pouring water down from the ceiling. It was like really a miserable condition. There was like, it was bad. But they bought the building. We did a full gut renovation and created Kaikado Cafe, which became very, very successful. Yeah, and actually in for that area of Kyoto, which was, nobody came there. Now it's like, people come there now. And it became a destination. And what I really find interesting and rewarding is that, from tea caddies to objects collection to a cafe, and now they have their small roastery.
Yeah, sure.
Which so is again, and it all makes perfect sense. Yeah. It's like it's kind of like a natural evolution of the brand. It's kind of like it's not like forced or anything. It's just like evolved, and I think that is beautiful. Yeah, it was only under two conditions that Taka had two conditions for us to do the cafe, and it was. One, you have to make a whiskey bar for my father, and second, a garden for my mother.
Oh.
So it was
Which
fun.
Is very good. They're also amazing. Like I visited their little shop, the first at the the
corner.
Tour. Yeah,
so nice.
The old shop, the new shop. Yeah, they do. I still think they do the 40 canisters a day, pretty much. Like that's the production volume. Like we don't do more. Yeah. We stumbled upon each other in Istanbul last year on like an event we all kind of went to.
I remember he went.
We were invited to like the same event.
That was also your friend from
exactly. That's how everything is kind of connected. So, which was kind of fun. But I think that's it's such an interesting place, and I think what you're touching on is really important. Where there's, I think the best craft, and I think why Japan is still so relevant is that they hold on to their traditions, but there is a progression in that, right? Like
totally.
The tradition has never been to just do the same thing. It's always been like, how can we make this better, right? While still kind of retaining the integrity.
And also finding your own way. That's very much for the young generation is always found your approach. And I think Taka really found his, not only making tea caddies in a different way, but like really I can take Kaikado to the next level.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's what she's doing. And then he's such a nice guy. He's so sweet and fun, and I really enjoy working with people in Japan because I don't see them as work. Actually, they're all my friends, and so I'm sure you have it the same way.
No, definitely, and it's just it's also they are very dedicated. Yeah. They take things very seriously, while at the same time being really nice people.
Exactly.
I think they're so comfortable in their craft because I think a lot of them live their craft.
Yeah.
So they can, almost make fun of it sometimes because they know how good they are, and they still, they play with it and they push, right.
And they still have a humbleness to it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, much more so than anyone in this side of the world, right? So, but we haven't really touched on that yet. But what is like? You're obviously very linked to Japan. Yeah, that's clear. Where does that come from?
Well, it started since I was a kid. It's it started with martial arts, and then an interest in where does that actually come from. I mean, the martial arts, and then like get a deeper understanding of what that is and the culture, and so it became an obsession, to be honest. Like when I was very, very young, I was still living with my parents, and they had this, they still have it, 50s architect house outside of Copenhagen. Very beautiful house, and in a way a little Japanese, like Louisiana also has a reference to Japan. So it was kind of like the perfect spot for me to do my own decoration. So my grandfather is was a carpenter, so and lived very close by. So I went to his workshop every day, and just like did wood stuff. So I also did my own furniture, and I did my own shoji screens. Back then, I was like 14.
Yeah, well, exactly. When I
was 14, and I did all my windows had shoji screens, and I had like a similar to tatami, but I couldn't get that, so I had like coconut mat, kind of like. I cut off the legs on my IKEA furniture and cut them down, so I had low tables and very minimal, very much minimalistic. And I had this. I found this Japanese woman down at Gothersgade. She had a small taeko, I think it was called, a store, and she sold like small ceramic stuff, and she got me washi paper so I could put for my shooter screens.
Yeah, sure.
I also did bonsai and a lot of nerdy things. I was super nerdy. Wasn't at all like a normal Danish teenager. So I think it was something that it's always been so much a part of me. Even though I'd never been there. And it actually took me till 2008 with again my business partner for my first trip to Japan. So it was quite some years. But
how old are you roughly then?
When I was for the first time.
When did you go to Japan for the first time?
That I have been around 36, 7, something like that.
And at that time, OEO already exists, or is it?
Yeah, for around 5 years. So.
Okay, so you started that basically early 30s, pretty much.
Yeah, well, probably a little more, but it felt like coming home. I mean, it's like my first. I didn't sleep for 9 days. I think it was like just like I didn't want to miss a minute, and just like sure. you know how that is. But so Japan has always been like something that really drew me. Almost like I had a different life sometime at one point.
Yeah, sure. Like you were supposed to be there.
I was supposed.
I get that notion. I always had, because for me, Japan was one of those things that was so hyped up. You know, people just go, it's amazing, and then it's so rare that the hype is, actually, that it lives up to the hype. But I knew somewhat that, if I go to Japan, I'm not gonna want to leave. So my idea was that, okay, I'm not gonna go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna push that like as far up as I can.
Yeah.
Because I know if I'm going, I'm just, I want to go there more permanently, right? And I think that was very much my first reaction to it as well.
Yeah. No, it totally annoys me now that it's so hyped. I'm talking about that trend.
Yeah, it's becoming a different thing. But I think also what's so interesting is that there's a lot of similarities between Copenhagen and Japan.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much from a craft perspective, but there's some mentality and an idea of it, right? That I think makes a lot of sense. So there's ways to let's say embrace that kind of Japanese culture by not being in Japan, right? It's more of a mindset and a philosophy, I think. But it's really such an interesting place, right? And personally, I only scratched the surface. Haven't really seen the whole country, and there's so much more.
I've been there a lot. I stopped counting, but it's close to 100. Yeah, and I only scratched the surface too.
Yeah.
So, but it's
close to 100 times.
Yes.
In Japan.
Yeah.
Wow.
Close. Yeah, getting there.
That is crazy. Yeah. So you don't own like a house in Japan, or?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I want to. Sounds like it makes sense.
I'm actually speaking with a friend, my friend Jens Jensen, who's obviously Danish but lived in Japan for 25 years or something. Married to a Japanese lady, and has 2 kids, Kai and Bo, which is great names, I think. Very both Japanese and very Danish.
No, very true.
And he has a house they have a house in Kamakura. He also has a small house very next to Kaikado, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he just bought a small place. He renovated, and you can rent it for nothing. He's such a nice guy, and so he's the guy to reach out for to find a place. But I really would like a place in Kamakura. Because it has that little hippie surfer vibe and is so connected to to Tokyo. You been there?
I haven't. No.
Only like a 50 minutes drive in a small train
That's
from
the thing.
Tokyo,
There's so much
Shibuya,
cool
and
stuff
then you
out
go
there.
and go to the coastline, and it's magical.
It is an amazing. I was down, as I mentioned before we started recording, I was down in Tokushima with the Indigo guys last summer, right? And I think the second you come out to like the islands and you see the actual coast, and you go like it's pretty spectacular, and it's nature in a way that Denmark is.
I couldn't live there for sure. Yeah. So, no, it's great. We should not forget this story from why.
No, yeah, sorry. This is me being a bad podcast host. Yeah, so like how we met.
Yes,
perhaps.
Yes.
So that was kind of interesting because this was early days, 1st April store. So like in Österbro, a different kind of area. We're in the city center now. And I remember that because I was working, and I remember there was this gentleman just standing kind of outside looking in for a long time.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, you stood outside on the street.
Yeah.
I want to say first across the street maybe, and then like closer, and you're like looking through the windows.
I remember.
And I was like, who is this person just kind of looking through the window? But I'm not sure if you just walked in or if I
think I walked in.
Yeah, you probably walked in.
I can't remember that exactly, but I remember the impression. That left on me, because I was literally mind blown. I mean, I'm flabbergasted in the best way possible. You know, because obviously you had a lot of Finn Juhl there, right?
Yeah,
and Finn Juhl has always been one of my big heroes of Danish design. I think he's one of the most interesting ones. Not only because he really understood craftsmanship, but also because he had his own ways of going. It doesn't look like anything from others, and he had his own. He followed his own instinct, and Finn Juhl has always been one of the most interesting designers, not only from Denmark but in the world. And the reason why I was like standing window gazing at the shop or cafe. What do you call it? Cafe shop?
I call it coffee store.
Coffee store, yeah.
Like
that was of course because you boldly drilled holes into the cabinets and made it into a coffee station.
Destroyed the Finn Juhl furniture, yeah. Or I mean, improved. It depends on how you look
but
at
I thought it was really bold because and I love that. I thought that this is so, again, bold, and I mean, because for some it would be blasphemy, right?
No, sure,
yeah. It would be like, I didn't see it as blasphemy. No. I thought it was like, wow, this guy, he really, he has some nerve, and I respect you for that, because I thought, so then you're really, this guy must be really serious.
I mean, Finn Juhl said the same thing, because it's, you need a bunch of permits and stuff to do that, right? And, I mean, you have two ways to do it. You can just buy the furniture and do it yourself and just go screw you guys. But I had too much respect for
and I know that
for what they were doing, so I would never just do that. So I was like, "Hi guys, I'm gonna put an espresso machine in your furniture," and they went, "What are you gonna do? How are you gonna do? What do you mean?" Yeah. But then for me, it was the contrast of, let's take the most modern espresso machine in the world, and put that in a cabinet from the 50s.
I think Finn Juhl, if you have asked him, the man himself, he would say he would have taken off his hat.
I think he would be up for it.
He would have loved that.
Yeah, totally. I always imagine him as being someone very playful.
Yeah.
That just kind of, I just do stuff, right? And then later in the years, it becomes like a luxury furniture, you know, basically for the rich Danish, older generation. Yeah. But I think initially when he started, it wasn't supposed to be that. I think that grew into something else, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I always liked the idea of For me, it was just trying to do some kind of living room sensation to it.
No, I think you did. You succeeded totally on that. I think. Yeah. So that was my first impression, and it was of course that, and then of course there was how everything was curated, really thoroughly curated, and I like the vibe. You know, it was very, again, like you say, living room-ish. You feel like you're coming home to somebody and having a good cup of coffee. And of course, there's the whole aspect of the coffee, which was also like next level. So I remember that. It was amazing.
It was an interesting day, right? And now we're getting a lot of shit from all over the world for like closing that store. But for me, again, it's like our mutual friend in Japan as well. Is this, you want to evolve, right? And so often evolving. I think a lot about that with April. I think it's true from let's say a personal level, but also as a company level. You can't just keep on adding things. Some things has to go. Right? To be able to refill and continue creating, take it the next step. You need to kill your darlings or move forward from the next step, right? So my process there was pretty much I was still quite happy and thankful that I got the opportunity to run a store like that, which I really enjoyed. But it had to go, and now I have something that I also really enjoy, right? Which is the next iteration of that, right? And in 1 or 2 years, I close that down, and I have the next iteration, right? I think it's a process that just makes sense, kind of.
And evolution. So
I'm curious, and I mean, we haven't done any official work together, apart from me buying some of your mirrors, but just to so we get a bit of an understanding for your work process. Let's say someone comes to you and say, okay, but I want you to design my coffee shop. Let's take that as an example, right? Yeah. Given that I'm in the coffee industry, like what's the process? How do you work? How do you think? How do you select who you work with? And what is the timeline or the process for finished coffee shop?
I think of course it's very much about, there's a lot of dialogue. There's obviously a lot of understanding what it is you want or the client want. And then I think we spend a lot of time thinking about what the approach should be. And I have a lot of thinking in my head going on, like again, what is the experience? What is the what are the drivers, you can say, that we're gonna work with, and also not to fall down that the cliche roads and trends and all these things that I always try to avoid. And again, about really always trying to create that authentic experience. Also because I believe that they have a longer life. I really truly believe that if people can feel it on an emotional level, it's not. I mean, then you have a connection. So I think sometimes I say that the design is one of the strongest languages we have, and the only one that we all speak. And I truly believe that. Of course, you also have food, or coffee. And the taste thing is the same, right?
I'm super curious. And sorry to interrupt, but like what I'm thinking now when you're saying this, because I'm very much the same. But then I might be right, I might be wrong, but in general, we see, consumer today, it's all about new trends, new hypes, TikTok, influencers, boom, boom, boom. And that sounds almost counterintuitive to what you're mentioning now.
Yeah.
Has like the last few years, has that changed anything in how you have to work? Have you tried to, let's say, adapt to a more kind of changing influencers? Because I'm assuming like fashion world, a good example, like before it was like a fashion editor that decided what was cool and what you should wear. Yeah. Today it's like a 20-year-old influencer in some country, right? Yeah. And I'm assuming design-wise
it is similar. I mean, things are obviously everywhere changing really fast with new social platforms and AI and it's for everything. I mean, you are and I, of course I'm aware of it. I don't We don't. We just do it the way we always believe it should be done, like organically, and about thorough storytelling, honesty, authenticity. So I never really cared about so much about having a big mass of followers if they're not really interested in what we're doing anyways. I'm sure we don't capture a lot of people, but I also think it also needs to feel right and honest to what we do. So I'm sure that we could do things differently. We can for sure, but I'm not sure whether we are very interested in that.
Yeah.
And also from my time at Wallpaper and working with Tyler and my colleagues there. I mean, of course you also have to have the nerve and be bold to take choices that you believe. I remember that and also sometimes I think it's very much about capturing the humanistic approach, the people, and sometimes I also like ugly. Sure. I like beautiful, but I think it's important that you have both the duality of that's what makes things interesting. So I'm not only interested in what's beautiful and that's why I don't like trendy, because trendy is always something that passes really quickly. And what is the next thing? So I think when something, if it's a restaurant, if it suddenly becomes the most trendy place to go, you most certainly it's not trendy half a year from now, because then there's something else. So you can, if you fall down that route of being just following trends, the lifespan will be very short.
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's much more interesting to develop for the long term, like the Japanese. You're not interested in just for tomorrow. I'm interested in developing for the futures, and so that's when you are. And I think also that's what's gonna win in the long term. It's when you have something, a true product, something. And I mean, I'm not saying that my daughter, who's 22 years, doesn't know about design. She does, but she doesn't have the experience that I have. So how can she say what's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I'm saying my daughter because I'm not gonna say somebody else's daughter.
No.
So,
100%. No, but I think having authority and stuff like that, it takes time. Right?
Like back to the TikTok, whatever, who comes to 3 days of design and tell me what's great design and whatnot, and what colors I should make my sofa in or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't care.
Yeah.
And but that's me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's there's a duality in that as well, in terms of people. I'm sure there's a lot of interior design or like design companies that do it very differently, right? They check socials every day and they go, okay, we're gonna.
Yeah, I think that's also super important. Of course, we are all dependent on social media, and it's also annoying that you have all these algorithms that are all constantly changing, and it doesn't have to be about the content you create, how good it is. It's more about, does it capture the what the algorithms want currently or whatnot, and I think that is problematic, but that's the way the world goes, right? So it's complicated.
Yes, interesting, and I mean opportunities as well.
Totally. There's so many. That's also how I want to approach it.
I'm curious actually, because I haven't asked this. But do you have any official education in something? Like
me? Fashion.
That's fashion. Okay, so you did like the whole.
My education is fashion. Yeah,
okay, really interesting.
I wasn't joking when I said I wanted to be the next Yuji Yamamoto.
Yeah. Actually, is that something you might still
I still really like it. So sometimes we also touches a little bit, but it's in the. I mean, I work also with Hoso, who's also from Kyoto, who's from 1688, Nishijin kimono textile maker, and they are totally down. I mean, they were actually our first client from Japan, and we still work with them. We did very closely, and we also developed a lot of different collections. And I think they are very close to fashion as well, because so developing textiles collections to me is also kind of fashion.
Yeah, of course.
Their clientele is now all of the big fashion brands, and interior brands. So, but I still like it. I mean, I still like it, but I like the slow fashion.
Yeah.
I think you are probably the same. Also, where I like the good qualities. I like the good fit. I like it when it's made right.
Yeah.
And I also like the classical, but I also like it with a twist. One of my heroes is still Yohji Yamamoto. I think he's to me like but he's also, his way of working with fashion is also something that I can totally relate to. And when I was in fashion, I looked like I was in fashion.
Yeah,
you can totally see that. I was like, oh yeah, of course you have to be an image of what you are creating. So, but it was fun, and you can read it in my book I gave you. There's actually a foreword from Tyler, and he's awesome. He's actually talking about that. It's quite funny.
Super interesting.
So it's
What is the, like, to change a little bit the chapter here? Like, what's the future? Like, what's next, right? Like, I think we've gone through quite a lot of what you've been, let's say, up to.
Yeah.
What is the,
what is the future of
OEO, of yourself?
Yeah.
Like, is that like, because I mean, you clearly have done a few evolutions of yourself already in this, right? And not sure exactly if there was the same kind of time frame on all of it, right? But I think you've done OEO longer than the other projects.
Totally,
maybe.
yeah, for sure.
So like, is there a change away from that, or is it? I think a lot about, like, people ask me how long are you going to do April, and I always said I have an expiration date in mind already, but at the same time, the way I look at expiration dates is a little bit, I'll stop doing the version of how I'm doing things, but I can still do another version of that same thing, right? So
for sure,
I see it more as a continuation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also same way. I mean, we don't have an exploration day. I think I wanna continue OEO, but I think also we've been through a lot of different phases and evolutions, and it hasn't grown smaller. I mean, in the beginning, we didn't do architecture, and I don't have an architecture background, but we have architects working. But I also think it's about having the ideas. I mean, but I think both Anne-Marie and I are both entrepreneurs by heart, and we like also the creation kind of thing. So we also like to be involved in a lot of different things. And also, I also get a lot of energy from things I don't know anything about. That's why I also like reading a lot. Like, I know you also like reading a lot, right? And I like reading about things I don't know anything about, because that's what drives me, and it gives me fuel and it also what gives me fuel to think new things, because you are pushed to, or you can be inspired, even though it's like a book about nuclear power or the passion of making coffee or whatnot, or if it's about strategy. I always find a lot of inspiration, and I think I like the entrepreneurial part of creating also things from scratch.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are not done. I think we have a lot of things we still want to do. We have something also on the way.
Yeah, it seems like there's always something on the way.
Yeah, there's always something on the way.
Right? But
I think also what I really would like to do, a bigger building. But that's because I really...
What's a bigger building in your perspective? Like, what are we talking?
It's not like a skyscraper or something, but it's more like... I just really became... I always loved architecture, but now also there's again about creating something where it's, kind of like an art piece.
I'm kind of the first word that pops up in my mind is like Dover Street Market.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like creative building, conceptual. We can do a lot of stuff with it. It feels like that could align pretty well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are for sure hungry for more, because also, and in that sense, it's not so much about it is really about what the creative process. It's the development that's really what gives me the fuel. Not so much the financial success. Of course, we all want money to live and whatnot.
Sure,
but it's that the creation that is the fun part, and then of course seeing the end result and how it's being used and how people view it, and I think that's the fun part. I'm sure you have it the same way when they also I mean, for what you do.
I think so too, and I think it's something about seeing other, like from a design perspective, then like or interior design perspective, which I don't claim I know anything about, but it's something very satisfying with seeing people interact in an environment that you created, kind of, and you learn so much about seeing people interact with it. They teach you about your own place exactly. in a way, right? Yeah. And then you kind of build on that. I'm curious, and I know we're kind of running out of time, but there's one thing I'm very curious about, because you've been creating things almost since you were 14 years old, then, right? And it sounds like that's a pretty much non-stop kind of thing. Have you ever like had a period in your life where you had, you completely ran out of energy and creativity? Yeah.
No, that's the ironic part, because of course I can also be depressed and having a down, and but most often that comes from being sensitive to the world around me and how the world goes, and that goes into my brain, and I struggle with that. But from a creative point of view, this is where I grow, and this is what I need projects. I'm not so good at just, unless I just sit and read.
Yeah, sure.
So, but I do that in the morning, and I'm talking about the coffee ritual, my relationship to coffee. That was a question from you. That is what I do in the morning. It's my morning coffee with a book. But I always, back to the, I need projects, and I never really had a resting moment, I think.
Yeah.
In my whole life, I guess. Not so much. Not even my holidays.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because you feel, I definitely align with that, because I also never really felt the need for it in that sense, right? Like I always feel that there is something to do, not in a way that you have to do it, like not in a pressured way, like I have to do this, but as in like a natural flow of, no, but I'm curious in what happens if I try this thing here. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to try this thing here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's a healthy kind of way to, it's an approach to things, right? And also allowing things to kind of shape the way they do naturally, right? Which I think you kind of have to in today's world as well, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe touch a little bit on also something we haven't talked about. Like, do you have any like proper failure when it comes to the products that you guys have done, or like the products?
Millions. A lot, I think. What is a failure actually? It's
good question.
Yeah. But how do you? Is it from a financial point of view that didn't sell the way you hoped, or is it because it breaks, or is it because people don't like it? Or of course, there's things that are more successful than others. Sometimes it's what becomes successful is what you don't expect it to be the successful thing.
Also.
Sometimes it's what you think is wow, this is a masterpiece, and people like it doesn't sell. So I think failures is. But of course we are doing, and I think maybe the biggest failure is when you are not satisfied yourself and you are feeling that you could have done better. That is always something where you feel that you could have done it better, and it's only half of what it should be, or 80% when in the last 20%, and sometimes it's not up to you. Sometimes it's things that occur and happens, and finances, things that are out of your control, and they, or sometimes it's because that it's it takes two to tango or more people to make it a success, and you can actually have created something that is great, but the parties you work with don't push it or don't communicate it. It can be a lot of things. It can be, I guess you can relate.
That must be hard, definitely. But I think the the only little difference is that I think it's in your case, you're still very often creating something for someone else, right? So you have someone on the other side needing to be happy with whatever it is that you create, right? And I think I'm kind of in the benefit of the sense for sure. It's probably a good thing if other people like it, but in the end of the day, I don't really have anyone else that buffers me in that. Like if I'm happy with it, then we're kind of going with it, and if I'm, let's say, not happy with it, then we're probably going to change it, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a different process in that sense, right? But I think both are. I sometimes miss the idea of having someone regulation. Like I see a lot of creativity and opportunity in kind of to some degree being boxed in sometimes.
Yeah,
because it forces you to see things a little bit differently, and you have to see, okay, but how can we make this work through the perspective of the box we have to work with.
Yeah, for sure. No,
because there are always limitations.
Constraints are always good, and you have to work within a box.
Yeah.
I also like that. I think sometimes that can also be beneficial in a process.
I think it makes it better. I think for me, and let's say building or shaping April, it's always been right. Then I think we're maybe we just opened up our new store now in February, so a few months ago, and I think because it is the second one, and the second time you build something, then you all of a sudden go, okay, yeah, but you see how you can do it better, much faster, and you see like, okay, but maybe we need a different space, maybe we need a bigger space, maybe we need to. There's with the very first store, I was very much okay. No, but this is probably a pretty nice store. I don't know, like it's we just made this. You don't have a reference point, and I think for every new project, at least I'm doing, I get a little bit kind of. You're eager to try to make it a little bit better than the one before, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is natural also, right? And I think it's important to want to make it better as well, right? But then it's interesting because let's say it's hard to define failure, just as it would be difficult to define success in that sense as well, right?
For sure.
The answer to both is the same, right? It's whatever your interaction with it is, right?
Yeah.
Then obviously we're all, as you said as well, like we're doing business. So there is a financial element to what we do. Like there's certain things, coffee shop, you can't do because it's a coffee shop. I can't put certain things in there because it's going to be used by 100 people every day, and it's just not going to work, right?
Yeah. And I think it's all these things you have to take into consideration, because it can be. Yeah, again, then you have durability and maintenance and all these elements that you have to take into consideration, because it's being worn a lot.
Yeah.
And people do stuff with it.
Yeah. That
you don't expect them to, but they do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that also comes from experience, right? Because and I think that is actually what the young TikToker don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's but again, failure and success is many things, because it can also be on the personal front, right? And it's there's and of course there's been a lot of ups and downs, but I also think that you grow from failure. I think that if you are able to take failure and turn it into success and learning, or at least learning, you are good.
I think so too, right? And it's it's there's very often that failure kind of becomes a success in a way as well, right? And I think it's a lot of the times you have to just touch base with something new to be able to get somewhere else, right? And I think a failure is a very it's a punch in the face.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, I've been quite good at foreseeing stuff than too early, and that you could also say is a failure, because that often leads to failure. Because you are not the one that succeeds with the first idea.
No, sure. I mean, other people, they learn from your mistakes, and then they...
Yeah, and it was just too early. It was you were just like 5 years ahead, and nobody understood. And if you have waited, you wouldn't have burned your hands and time and all that. So I think there's also a learning in that. Then you learn from that and seeing the bigger picture, and say, also observe the world around you and say, is it the right time and moment? And
but I think that's so hard to
super difficult.
Yeah, I think
super difficult.
That's something that because I had that conversation like around April for a long time, right? Are people ready for this? Can you do this? Or is this a smart thing to do? And my conclusion is always, I have no idea and I don't really care.
Yeah,
I need to do this now.
Totally,
and then you have to, at some point, just see what people do with it, right? But I think a lot of people, I will always stand behind the idea that integrity, or like your only advantage is yourself, right?
Yeah.
So there's no other coffee brands run by Patrik. So if you want to do something relevant, then put yourself in it. And then you have to be okay with whatever outcome. They can go in whatever direction, right? But at least then I know that I did that. And if that did not work, then I know, okay, but just wasn't meant to be, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I think a lot of people are a bit hesitant towards that, right? They don't put themselves on a plate. They put whatever they think someone else want on that plate.
Yeah.
And then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot.
But it's also about taking risks. And, it's also when you create something and you always has that fragile moment because you don't know what how will they react to it. And I think that is actually important that it is, because that also means it means something.
Yeah.
You actually have something from your chest you want to create. And of course, if you don't care, it doesn't mean anything, right? So it has to have, I guess, also like for an author, an artist, or, you always, how will they get it? I feel the same, from that creation when you are, how is it going to be? What is the response going to be? I mean, will people like it, or is it just up in my own head or in your head?
Is that making you like nervous whenever you're about to, you're opening the doors to new restaurant you designed or new product, and do you like still care?
I think there's a moment of that you just feel a little fragile.
Yeah.
And like when we just did the book, that was a big thing because it's very personal, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like how we think and how we work, and it's very personal. So it's like a mirror on us, into our souls, and I think that is very fragile. But I also think it was extremely rewarding to make it because it makes you think, and also makes you reflect on how you work and what actually drives you, and I mean, where do you find your inspiration, and what is meaningful to you, and your values, all these things. So I really enjoyed the creation of the book because it's it was almost like therapy, right? It's but then it's like therapy, like open to everybody.
I mean, it's an interesting. I had the same realization when I wrote my book, and that was literally therapy. That was more like, because I never really done the whole therapy thing, and I was like, what I need to do now in my kind of journey is to look at what I've been doing and try to understand, is any of it relevant? Does it make any sense? Is there any progress in this? And I think writing it down is very powerful. Because then you just see it from a different perspective. And
you're good at journaling. I noticed that. So
I mean, it's something that I always do. I think it
I want
makes
to,
sense,
but
right?
I need to. I should.
It's the interesting thing for me when doing that, and it's not like, today I did this or like yesterday I did this. It's very much what do I think about this? And then you write it out on a paper and then you read it. And then I connect with it differently than if I just think about it.
Totally relate.
It becomes a bit more real, and I kind of touch it a little bit more. So I think that's it's an interesting way to do it. I think it keeps up a bit of creativity and holds you a little bit accountable in the direction you're going as well, right? Keeps you from just doing things a little bit randomly, right? Which I think is quite important.
Totally.
We're actually on 1 hour now, so
wow,
I think it's quick. That was pretty quick, actually. And that's the issue with these conversations. But the reason why we do this as well is just to, I think, again, limitations. There's something powerful in it, and if we have more to talk about, we can always do episode 2.
We can do that for
That's
sure.
always
I would
around
love
for
that.
it.
Yeah.
So as always, just want to thank all of you for watching and listening, whatever you guys are doing, and thank you, Thomas, so much for taking the time.
Oh, it was fun.
I really appreciate it. Where can they find you if they want to find you on, I don't know, social media?
We have a
whatever?
website.
We have a website. We'll link somewhere, and then you guys can find the links, and we'll figure that out from there. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Likewise.